Welcome to Leading the Follower with Rebecca Benston. Welcome to the Leading the Follower podcast. I'm trying a brand new platform today, and the topic that we are discussing is Speak for Yourself. Recently, I've seen a great deal of posts on social media saying things like, there's no reason for anyone to be unemployed, or there are plenty of jobs out there. I wonder, when people are saying these things, are their heads completely up their rear ends, or have they simply not considered who makes up the population of unemployed workers? Recently, I went on a bit of a rant on Twitter after seeing another post on the subject. Um, this time, one of my favorite actresses had posted, and while I don't think she meant anything hurtful by what she said, I think sometimes people don't consider that generalizations simply don't work for this situation. I'll share both her post and my responses to it below. The original post said, "It's time to stop collecting unemployment and start working. Just had 5 places in the last 2 days apologize for bad service because they can't staff their businesses. So, hope we're not hearing there are no jobs available." Well, I thought about this, and my response was, I disagree. Not everyone can do retail and restaurant work. For many, they spent tons of money getting an education so that they wouldn't have to stay in those jobs. Going back now would be insulting, not to mention those who cannot work in those jobs due to health issues. Um, Plenty of unemployed people are willing to work, but not in the types of jobs that are available. Would you settle for $9 an hour after working your ass off to get to $60,000 a year? I doubt it. $9 an hour doesn't pay the bills. That's why college was pushed on us. So people need to stop judging those who are already dealing with being unemployed. It's stressful enough. Myself, I have worked all my life, and as a 48-year-old woman with 2 advanced degrees, I don't intend to take a job that won't pay the rent. I've been there, paid my dues, and definitely paid into unemployment and taxes all my life. So, stop shaming people. Every unemployed person is not a parasite. They deserve decent jobs that are at least comparable to the one that they lost. And before anyone says it, there's a range that is acceptable. I'm not saying that taking a job that pays less than what you had is unacceptable. I'm saying that you shouldn't have to take a $40,000 a year pay cut just to be able to say that you have a job. It's just another way of keeping us under their control. By constantly offering us crumbs instead of what's appropriate to our education and experience, then they keep us in a place that we don't want to be. You can bet there's plenty of woke social justice warriors out there in management positions, not because they're qualified, but because they will kiss the recommended amount of ass. Move those people into jobs that they're actually qualified for and open up those positions for people who know how to think and not just bow down. Then you can gripe about people who won't go back to their high school jobs. We pay into that unemployment insurance for a reason through our paychecks. We pay those taxes so that if we need help, it shouldn't be a problem or something that we're shamed for accessing. I've been working since I was probably 17 years old, and I've put in my time, and I've worked probably 98% of those years between then and now. That's a long time. So, naturally, it kind of rubs me the wrong way when someone says something like, "Well, you could just go back and work at a job that, I'm not I'm not equipped to do that job at this stage in my life. I've passed that. And while I know how to do it, things have changed. My body's not able to do that kind of work. I just have different needs and different ways of thinking and different ways of processing things than I had when I was a teenager, and I don't intend to go backward. So, some people seem to think that it's acceptable for a grown woman who has already spent her time working in lower paying jobs while she was getting her education to go back to working in those same lower paying jobs because she finds herself in the unfortunate position of having lost her job, um, without considering why or whether or not she's even able to do those jobs, which are designed for people who have more physical strength and stamina in most cases. Those people are chiming in to say, yeah, they don't deserve unemployment, and make them go back to the beginning and start over. Well, that's simply not right, especially in the case of an individual who was maybe wrongfully terminated or eliminated from their position due to widespread layoffs or reductions in force. And while we're looking at the pandemic, we have so many people displaced from their jobs that, asking those people who were maybe high level management or, just in a specific field, asking them to step into a role that pays like, I don't know, 40 or $50,000 less than they're used to making a year, and it's something that they've trained for, is just really unfair. And I don't think most people would willingly do that. Um, so when you look at people who are in the higher paying management positions, in many cases, you can see that larger companies tend to hire those individuals who are more pliable, those who will not go against the grain and attempt to use independent thinking. They want the recent college graduates or those who are clearly living the popular narrative, because if they have too many people questioning what they're doing at the top levels, they risk losing their kickbacks or whatever special benefits they have for operating in a certain way. If there are companies out there who actually hire based on qualifications these days, please point those out to me. Over 1,000 rejected job applications in a year would indicate differently. For those who refuse to bow down and do things that go against their religious beliefs and moral values, it's hard to find a place where you can fit in and thrive without having to water down who you are, and in a culture that boasts such inclusion and diversity, no less. When evil is in power, excuse me, it takes all necessary steps to ensure that the capable, faithful warrior will not advance in their arena. Yes, there are and always will be those who take advantage of the handouts that government will give them, and that's not going to change. But if you've been unfortunate enough to be someone who has worked for the majority of your adult years and you find yourself in the position of having to ask for help, it's not that easy for some to access the help that they've paid into over the span of their working lives. For some reason, there's a segment of the population that can always access those benefits, and they never seem to have a problem keeping themselves in food stamps or medical benefits or unemployment or whatever they may be seeking. I'm not sure what goes into that. It's not something that I have spent a great deal of my time working with. So it isn't right to shame people who have likely paid more into the system in taxes than what they are getting out if they ever find themselves in need of getting that help. Because the likelihood is they're going to go back to work sooner, and they're not going to want to stay on unemployment or receive other benefits if they can work. And like myself, if there was a way for me to get a step back into the workforce and earn enough to support myself, I would still take a pay cut. However, I mean, there's a level that I don't intend to fall below in order to just say that I have a job. So, um, if our employers were truly hiring people who were, in fact, qualified for the work that needs to be done instead of those who fit a profile, I suspect there wouldn't be such a disparity in the number of available jobs and the education and experience level of available workers. Instead, you see things like programs for high school students that allow them to fill positions where they might receive $15 an hour or more to be an apprentice. Experienced workers aren't considered for those special positions. So you have these individuals who are out there looking for work in their field, but can't get those positions because they're reserved for younger workers who don't have families to support or regular expenses to pay. And I'm all for preparing kids for the workplace and giving them training. But what happened to learning how to work by becoming an intern or maybe a minimum wage cashier or food service worker? That's where you learn the basics, not where you should be forced to go because all of the good jobs have been given to inexperienced, uneducated interns. I personally haven't been able to get even an interview at a lower paying or entry level job because I have 2 advanced degrees, and most employers are afraid that I'll want too much money. And without even asking me, they will just throw my application into the no pile. So, being judged as part of a group of individuals who are struggling to get back into the workforce is not something that I really enjoy. To date, I have submitted no less than 1,500 resumes and applications for positions ranging from data processing to HR management. And I have over 20 years of combined management and human resources experience and cannot get a job in the field because I stepped out of HR for a few years to have my daughter. So, with all of my management experience, I can't get a job managing a restaurant or a store because most of my work was done in nonprofits and the insurance industry and not in retail. So, this is why it's important to stop generalizing and start examining the root cause of the issue before passing judgment. If you're unemployed due to the pandemic or some other reason, I feel for you and I pray that you'll catch a break. And I encourage you to ignore the bellows of those who have no clue what it means to be qualified and unwanted. Thanks for stopping by the blog, the podcast page. I hope you will stop by for our next one. And just if you like this podcast, hit like and be sure to subscribe so that you get all the latest updates. Thank you.